I've worked as a nurse in Germany for a few years now. When I was offered the night shift last year, it seemed like a dream come true. I was surprised to get the job in the first place because I had just finished my training and the opportunity was too good to pass up. The environment was good and the pay was more than enough to convince me to accept the job. The only downside? I lived more than an hour away. But it wasn't that bad, since there was a train that took me from right outside my door to just a few kilometers away from my workplace, which I could easily reach by bus in under 20 minutes. I had to take the train almost 2 hours before my shift, so I had to wake up very early every day. This also meant that I had to go to sleep early, which was a challenge since my shifts were long, as was the ride back home. The first 2 years of my job were a nightmare. I felt like I was losing all day and night, and my sole purpose was to live, eat, sleep, and work. Sometimes eating was optional. Then, I was offered the night shift, and all my problems seemed to vanish. To be fair, as a young woman who, in my opinion, wasn't too bad looking, I had a few scary encounters with perverts or drunks who catcalled me or followed me. But the bus station wasn't far, and I found myself enjoying the silence of the night. I could sleep in, spend the day however I wanted, and then leave for my night shift once everything was done. It kind of felt like I had the perfect work-life balance, which probably sounds stupid to others with better schedules. But as a starting nurse, having a few hours to myself was a gift. At least, it was until tonight. 2 of the older patients had a heart attack almost simultaneously. Thankfully, they both survived, although the next few hours were very stressful nonetheless. After clocking out a little later than usual, I decided I would sleep all day as soon as I reached my bed. Come on, I muttered under my breath, watching the bus stop at what was probably the 5th red light in a row. I checked my watch and cursed when I realized I would miss my train. The next train wouldn't arrive for an hour. As soon as the bus stopped, I ran as fast as I could, even though I knew the train was long gone. When I reached the train track, it was empty. No surprise. On the verge of tears from exhaustion and annoyance, I stared at my phone's train app, which showed that my train had left, on time, for probably the first time ever in German history. Exhausted, I sat down on a nearby bench and closed my eyes for just a moment. When I opened them, I saw a train right in front of me. I almost jumped with how sudden it was. It was as if the train appeared out of nowhere, without any sound. Since I was so tired, I figured I had fallen asleep and just slept through its arrival. I checked the display, but no train was supposed to arrive for at least 30 minutes. The train app also hadn't indicated that there would be a train anytime soon. Maybe it was the exhaustion that clouded my judgment, or maybe it was the fact that I was alone on the side of the tracks in the middle of the night, which made it easy for someone to rob me, or worse. So I stood up, picked up my bag, and walked toward the train. Suddenly, a hand gripped my arm as I was about to step through the doors, startling me so much that I let out a shriek of surprise. When I turned around to look at its owner, I was met with the face of a homeless old man with a filthy odor and a crazy look in his eyes. I hadn't even seen him in the darkness. Over his shoulder, I could see the spot he had probably built up for the night. "You can't go in there," the man stuttered, or more accurately spat at me. Disgusted, I tried to rip my arm away from his clammy hands. He gripped them tighter and started shouting, "You'll never get out! They never do!" while trying to pull me away from the doors that, miraculously, hadn't closed yet, as if waiting for me. "Is there a problem?" a woman around my age suddenly asked from inside the train. She looked at us. I noticed she was wearing a big smile and a train uniform. "This is the devil's work. None of this is real," the man continued. The woman's smile seemed to widen as she calmly answered. "This woman chose this train and would like to enter. Now, please, let her go." The man stopped ripping at my jacket and finally let me go. He spun around, spat at the woman's feet, and left, his left leg trailing behind him slightly. The woman, still smiling, turned to me and gestured for me to get inside. Before entering, I asked just to be sure if this train stopped in my town, even though I knew that my home was on the route for all trains going this way. The smiling woman nodded and said, "This train will take you home, dear," in her soft, melodic voice, yet her never-ending smile creeped me out. It should have been my first red flag. I was relieved to finally be in a warm and comfortable space. I took one of the empty seats and realized this train's interior was unlike any I had ever seen in this town. First, the seats were much more comfortable than usual, almost like sitting on a couch. Secondly, and more importantly, every seat was clean. They weren't just freshly cleaned. More likely, they were never used before. A quick scan of the surroundings confirmed that the entire train was unnaturally clean. There was even a faint floral scent in the air. It was completely different from the normal smell of sweat and urine in trains. I chalked it up to it being a new kind of train that was about to be introduced and tested only at night. I checked my phone, which read 3:33. Just as the train started moving, my phone died. I stared blankly at it, pretty sure it had shown 27% just a few minutes earlier. I sighed in defeat. Then, I closed my eyes for a few moments of sleep. Surprisingly, it was a very relaxing sleep, not cut abruptly by the train stopping or an announcement about the next stop. I jumped up from my seat. Had I overslept my stop? I tried to look through the window for a clue of how far we were, but it was pitch black outside. You couldn't even see a single tree moving as we were still speeding along the tracks. I checked the display above me, hoping to see my stop among the next few. Instead, I was met with black displays. Just like my phone, the displays were pitch black and showing no signs that they ever worked. My heart started beating faster as I finally got the feeling that something was horribly wrong with this train. I stood up abruptly and made my way through the train, hoping to find the woman from before or another passenger, but I didn't see anyone. At least 10 minutes passed as I walked down the empty rows of seats, though I had no way to check the time anymore. My watch seemed to be stuck on 3:33 a.m., exactly the time the train started moving. A few minutes later, I began to wonder why I hadn't encountered any other passengers. Sure, it was the middle of the night, but surely I wasn't the only person heading home from a night shift or even on the way to catch an early flight. More importantly, I started to question why I hadn't reached the end of the train. It was almost as if the train had no end, but that was impossible. By that point, I had started walking faster and faster until I was sprinting down the seemingly never-ending wagon. I shouted, "Hello? Is there anyone there?" I was desperate, hoping for an answer. I didn't hear anyone, although I wasn't sure if I could hear anything over the loud beating of my heart, which seemed like it was about to jump out of my chest at any second. Tears started streaming down my face, joining snot on their way down my chin. When I finally slowed down, I was gasping for breath from both the running and the crying. Sob after sob escaped my lips as my lungs screamed for me to stop. My bag hit the floor with a small thump, followed by my knees. The floor was the cleanest I had ever seen. I was consumed by dread and horror as I realized something. I wasn't going to leave. I was trapped. Hunching over, I shook, sobbed, and gasped painfully when a soft, raspy voice above me asked, "What's wrong, my child?" The question made me choke on my own sob. I blinked rapidly, trying to clear my vision, and I finally saw the first human in what felt like an eternity. It was an older woman, smiling sympathetically at me. My, don't you worry. This pain will be gone in no time." She helped me up from the floor and led me to a seat where she sat me down, leaving my bag behind. She pulled out a tissue from her yellow cardigan, which was hanging loosely over her pretty floral dress. An interesting choice for a train ride. I cleared my throat and croaked, What's going on? Why isn't this train stopping?" I was surprised at how hoarse my voice sounded. The woman smiled as she calmly answered, "It will stop when it reaches its destination. I'm finally going to see my daughter after so many years," answering my question only partly. Nevertheless, I was thankful, as it promised me a stop somewhere in the future. The fear in my heart seemed to shrink a little, but it was still there, clinging to me like an upset stomach. "Did you two grow apart?" I asked as I blew my nose loudly with the tissue. The woman sighed sadly and said, "You could say that," staring at her hands. Her whole demeanor changed, and my heart ached. "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to intrude," I sniffled. The woman just shook her head and whispered, "That's fine, my child. She was just so young when it happened." My brows furrowed. "I don't understand," I said slowly. The woman looked up at me with her old, sad eyes and said, "My daughter died when she was 7. It was a car accident. A drunk man ran her over and drove away before I could react." My voice seemed lost as I managed to say, "What?" The woman only smiled at me as I looked at her in horror. "What do you mean? How can you visit her if she's dead?" My voice quivered and rose as I asked. A horrifying thought started to form in my head. The woman's eyes widened, and now she was the one who looked at me in horror. "My God, why are you on this train, child?" she asked. Her question gave me the energy to surge up from my seat beside her and run through the train once again, screaming, "I want out! I want out! Please! Let me out! Please!" It had been hours, maybe even days, since I talked to the old woman. I had lost track of time as I pounded on doors and windows, trying to break them open. Nothing seemed to work. My voice was broken, and so was I. I was lying on the floor, shaking uncontrollably, when the woman in the uniform that I had met when I first boarded appeared in front of me. I hadn't seen or heard her coming. She looked down at me, smiling that big, creepy smile I remember when I first met her. "It seems we made a mistake, miss. You aren't supposed to come with us yet. Please leave." As she said this, the doors down the corridor opened slowly. I hadn't even noticed when we stopped. I didn't care. I ran to the door faster than I ever had before, afraid that it might close again and trap me in this hell. As soon as I felt the fresh air, I laughed. Then I cried. My knees hit the floor once more, and through teary eyes, I saw the dirt and filth under my legs. Never in my life had I been more happy to see just how dirty the floor was. I sat there for a long time until I realized the train had left, along with my work bag. But I didn't care. I was alive. I pulled out my phone, which magically worked again, and checked the time. It was 3:34. It was as if nothing had ever happened. I looked up when someone walked up to me, their footsteps light and unsure. I looked up and saw the homeless man who had tried to stop me from getting on the train. Somehow, I was back where my journey started. Too afraid to get back on a train after what I had just survived, I called a friend to pick me up. They weren't happy to be woken up at this hour, but after hearing how shaken up I was, they agreed to come. I sat at the train station and watched trains come and go, silently typing this down. I want to warn you, if you ever see a train that shouldn't exist, don't get on it. It might be the last train you ever get on. It almost was for me. Wherever this train was headed, it wasn't on Earth anymore. I don't know if it arrives at the same time every day, or if it was just a coincidence that it stopped for me. Either way, I don't want to know. I'm just glad to have survived. The end. My whole life, I've always wanted to ride a train. But after this story, I feel a little hesitant. If this train only comes out at night, does that mean that the spirits only travel at night too? Thinking about it kind of reminded me of that Studio Ghibli film called Spirited Away. I won't spoil anything if you haven't seen it, but if you know, you know. You know? Thank you, Mindless Emphasis 205, for letting me read your story. The link to their story on Reddit can be found in the description. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it, or dislike it if you didn't. And if you're not already subscribed, what the heck? I post videos twice a week, every week, so if you don't want to miss out on some fresh spooky stories, consider subscribing. Anyway, if you've made it this far, thank you! You're awesome! I'm not good at ending the video. Saying goodbyes are so awkward. I mean, I could just keep talking until I run out of time. I mean, the possibilities are